Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always ready to explore the mysteries of the mind.
Well, today we're tackling a topic that feels almost like, well, déjà vu itself. We're diving into the phenomenon of déjà vu. Kind of ironic, right? Like, haven't we talked about this before?
Maybe in another dimension.
Exactly. But seriously, we got so many intriguing questions from you all about déjà vu. You want to know why it happens, what it means? Is it a glitch, a feature, a sign of something else entirely? So that's our mission today, to unpack all of that.
That's like a fascinating journey.
It really is. And speaking of déjà vu, I had this crazy vivid experience just the other day. I was walking into this coffee shop, the one I go to, like every other morning. And I swear, it felt like I was literally reliving the exact same moment from, I don't know, sometime in the past. It's like I knew exactly what the barista was going to say, what song would be playing, everything.
Classic déjà vu. That feeling of premonition of the script being already written, it's incredibly powerful, isn't it?
It really is. It's like, whoa, is this real life?
Yeah.
So maybe let's start with the basics. For anyone who might not be familiar, can you give us that, like, déjà vu 101 explanation?
Absolutely. So déjà vu, at its core, is that eerie sense of familiarity with a situation that logically you know you're experiencing for the first time. That been there, done that feeling, even though you haven't. It's like your brain is hitting the replay button, but there's no previous recording.
Right. And it's not just a vague sense of, oh, this feels familiar. It's often super specific,
Right.
right? Like in my coffee shop example.
Exactly. And what's even more fascinating is how common it is. Studies suggest that over 60%, some even say upwards of 70% of people experience déjà vu at least once in their lives.
Wow. So that's most of us. Which makes you wonder, why does it happen? What's the science behind it? What's going on in our brains?
Well, there's no one definitive answer, and that's what makes it so intriguing. But there are some compelling theories out there. One popular one is what's called the memory glitch theory.
Okay. Memory glitch. Tell me more.
So think of it this way. Your brain is like a super complex filing system. It's constantly taking in new information and trying to store it in the right place. But sometimes there might be a little oops. It's like accidentally saving a new document into an old folder on your computer. You open that folder expecting something familiar, but boom, there's this new file that shouldn't be there.
Right. So you're saying our brains are basically misfiling experiences.
Yeah.
And that creates the feeling of, I've been here before.
Precisely. Your brain is treating a brand new experience as if it were a retrieved memory. And that creates that jarring sense of familiarity.
I mean, that makes sense. I'm the queen of misplacing things in real life, so why not have my brain too, right? But okay, here's my thing. If our brains are constantly processing new information, learning, experiencing new things, wouldn't that mean we'd be having déjà vu, like, all the time?
That's a great point, and it highlights just how complex and nuanced memory really is. It's not a flawless system, right? There are bound to be little hiccups, moments where the wiring gets crossed.
Like a short circuit in the system.
Yeah, you could think of it that way. And those moments might be what we experience as déjà vu.
Interesting. So it's not like our brains are literally replaying a past event. It's more like they're making a mistake, a miscalculation, and that feels like a memory.
Exactly. It's like your brain is saying, hold on, this seems familiar based on a few matching details, even though in reality, the whole experience is completely new.
So a bit of a brain fake out.
In a way, yes.
This is making me question everything I thought I knew about my own brain.
That's the beauty of neuroscience. Always more to discover. But, there are other theories out there too. For example, there's the dual processing theory.
Dual processing. I'm intrigued.
Okay, so imagine this. You're walking into a new place, say that same coffee shop. Your brain is bombarded with all this sensory information, right? Sights, sounds, smells. But what if different parts of your brain process this information at slightly different speeds?
Okay, I'm following so far.
So let's say the part of your brain handling visual information processes the scene just a fraction of a second faster than the part handling auditory information.
So like I see the coffee shop before I fully hear the sounds of the coffee grinder or the chatter.
Exactly. And that tiny delay could create this weird sense that you've already seen this before, even though it's all unfolding in real time.
Whoa. So our brains are playing a little game of catch up, and that creates the déjà vu effect.
Exactly. It's all about timing and how our brain integrates different streams of information.
Mind-blowing.
Right. And then there's another fascinating theory called unconscious preprocessing.
Okay, unconscious preprocessing. Lay it on me.
So our brains are actually absorbing a ton of information that we're not even consciously aware of, like subliminal stuff. For
That
example, you're walking down the street and pass a bakery. You might not consciously register the smell of fresh bread.
Yeah, I'm usually too focused on not tripping on the sidewalk to notice anything.
Of course. But even if you don't consciously notice it, your brain is still processing that scent. Later on, maybe you walk into a different place and that same bakery smell hits you. Suddenly, you get this wave of familiarity, but you can't quite place it.
Because my brain secretly filed it away without telling me.
Precisely. It's like your brain has this hidden archive of sensory experiences that it can pull from, even if you don't have conscious access to it.
Okay, that is both super cool and kind of creepy at the same time.
Right. It really makes you wonder what else is going on beneath the surface of our awareness.
So much for free will. Okay, so we've got these different theories, but is there any consensus on whether déjà vu is a sign of something being wrong, or is it actually, like, a good thing?
That's the question, isn't it? The good news is that for the vast, vast majority of people, occasional déjà vu is totally harmless. In fact, some researchers even speculate that it might be a sign of a healthy, active memory system.
So, like, if my brain is glitching, it means it's working.
Well, it suggests that your brain is constantly making connections, predictions, filing things away, all those processes that are essential for learning and memory.
So the occasional brain oops is actually a good sign. I like that.
Uh,
But wait, didn't you mention earlier that déjà vu can sometimes be linked to neurological conditions?
right, that's an important point. Déjà vu can be a symptom of certain conditions, most notably temporal lobe epilepsy. However, it's important to emphasize that the type of déjà vu associated with those conditions is typically different from the everyday kind most people experience.
Okay, so how is it different?
Well, for starters, it's usually much more intense, longer lasting, and may even be accompanied by other neurological
So
symptoms.
like not just a fleeting feeling, but something more pronounced.
Exactly. So while it's important to be aware of the potential connection to neurological conditions, for the vast majority of us, the occasional déjà vu experience is nothing to worry about.
That's definitely reassuring. And speaking of how our brains work, one of the questions we got a lot was about the link between déjà vu and age.
Ah, yes, the age factor. Researchers have observed that younger adults tend to report experiencing déjà vu more often than older adults.
So, like, does that mean our brains are just better at glitching when we're younger?
Possibly. It could be that younger brains are simply more active, more plastic. They're constantly forming new connections, absorbing new information, and that increased activity might make those memory glitches more likely.
Makes sense. So as we get older, those mental fireworks die down a bit.
Potentially, yes. The frequency of déjà vu does seem to decline with age, and that might be related to natural age-related changes in memory function, particularly in a brain region called the hippocampus. But of course, more research is needed to really understand the exact mechanisms at play.
It's amazing how our brains are constantly evolving throughout our lives.
Absolutely. And speaking of our amazing, ever-changing brains, you also had some questions about this other intriguing phenomenon, jamais vu.
Oh yeah, Johnny, full disclosure, I'd never even heard of this before you brought it up.
A lot of people haven't. It's definitely lesser known than déjà vu, but just as mind-bending. You could think of it as the flip side of the coin.
Okay, explain.
So while déjà vu is that feeling of familiarity with something new, jamais vu is the opposite. It's that eerie feeling of unfamiliarity with a situation that you logically should know well.
So like what, I walk in my own house and I suddenly feel like I've never been there before.
Exactly. Or maybe you're driving home from work, a route you've taken 1,000 times, and suddenly it feels completely foreign. Or you look at a word you've read and written 1,000,000 times, and suddenly it looks like a jumble of meaningless letters.
Wow, that sounds even weirder than déjà vu.
It can be. And unlike déjà vu, which is usually spontaneous, jamais vu can sometimes be induced in lab settings.
Really? Like how do they do that?
Well, one way is through repetition. If you have someone write the same word over and over and over again, eventually they might start to experience that jamais vu feeling. It's like their brain gets overloaded with the repetition and sort of forgets the familiarity of the word.
Wow, that's wild. So basically, you can trick your brain into experiencing jamais vu.
In a way, yes, and that tells us something about how fragile our sense of familiarity and recognition really is.
This is seriously making me rethink everything. So we've got déjà vu, jamais vu. Are there any other brain glitches we should be aware of?
Oh, there are so many fascinating phenomena out there. There's presque vu, that tip of the tongue feeling when you know a word but can't quite retrieve it.
Oh, I get that all the time.
We all do. And then there are even stranger things like reported time slips, where people feel like they've briefly stepped into a different point in time, but those are deep dives for another day.
Seriously, add those to the list. This is all so fascinating, but I feel like we're only scratching the surface.
We are, but hopefully we've given everyone a good starting point for understanding these strange and wonderful quirks of our brains.
Definitely. So just to recap, it seems like the main takeaway here is that déjà vu is surprisingly common, generally harmless, and might even be a sign of a healthy, active brain.
That's a great summary. It's a reminder that our brains are constantly working, making connections, and sometimes those connections might feel a little too real.
Maybe those glitches are what make life interesting. But, all of this raises a really big question. If our brains can create these uncanny feelings of familiarity, even when we know logically that something is new, what does that tell us about the nature of memory itself? How much of what we experience is real and how much is a construction of our own minds?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And one that philosophers and scientists have been grappling with for centuries.
Well, I don't think we'll be solving that one today, but it's definitely something to ponder. It's been an amazing deep dive with you, and I'm sure our listeners have a lot to think about.
Absolutely. And we'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever experienced déjà vu or jamais vu? What are your theories about what causes these phenomena? Share your stories, and let's keep exploring these mysteries together.
Until next time.